In the world of internet fame, some names carry far more weight than others. Certain figures become symbols rather than people, flattened into headlines, search results, and viral clips. Mia Khalifa is one of those names. To the public, she is often reduced to a brief chapter in adult entertainment, a punchline, or a controversy. But behind that simplified image exists a far longer, far more complicated story, one shaped by displacement, insecurity, control, rebellion, and contradiction. Over the past decade, Mia Khalifa has worked relentlessly to distance herself from the identity that first made her famous, attempting to rebrand herself as a mainstream influencer with millions of followers. Her narrative is well known in broad strokes, retold countless times by journalists, YouTubers, and podcast hosts. Yet when you listen closely, across dozens of interviews, scattered anecdotes, and overlooked archives, a much more fragmented and uncomfortable picture begins to emerge. One filled with inconsistencies, paradoxes, and unresolved truths. To understand how Sarah Jo Shamoun became Mia Khalifa, the story must begin long before the internet knew her name. Sarah Jo Shamoun was born on February 10, 1993, in Beirut, Lebanon. For the first 8 years of her life, she was raised in the Middle East within a Catholic household and attended a private school where English was taught. By her own account, this early period of her life was not particularly restrictive. In fact, she has stated that she had more freedom as a child in Lebanon than she would later experience in the United States. In 2001, shortly after the events of September 11, her family immigrated to America, a move that would define much of her internal struggle. The timing could not have been worse. Anti-Middle Eastern sentiment was high, and young Sarah found herself navigating a public school system where she stood out immediately. She was one of very few non-white students, and her appearance, weight, accent, behavior, and even the food she brought from home made her a target for ridicule. She has repeatedly described her early years in the US as isolating and humiliating. She didn't see herself as a total outcast, but she didn't belong anywhere either. She floated on the edges of social groups, never fully accepted, never fully rejected, existing in an emotional limbo that left her deeply insecure. According to her own reflections, she grew up feeling unattractive, unwanted, and unsure if she would ever truly fit in anywhere. As a teenager, those feelings of alienation followed her. Eventually, her parents made the decision to send her to Massanutten Military Academy, a boarding school in Woodstock, Virginia, where she would attend grades 8 through 12. The official reasoning behind this decision has shifted depending on the interview. Sometimes it's framed as a response to her struggles making friends at public school. Other times, it's described as an attempt to rein in what she herself has referred to as wild behavior. Ironically, the academy that was meant to discipline her also became the place where she found a sense of belonging. While she has spoken about being isolated during her teenage years, she has also openly admitted that she became a bully at the academy, hazing other students, asserting dominance, and finding social power through intimidation. Whether this behavior was a defense mechanism or a way to gain acceptance, it worked. For the first time, she felt part of a community. The academy also represented freedom of a different kind. Away from her parents, Sarah began exploring adulthood earlier than most. She has acknowledged that she became sexually active during this period and earned a reputation among her peers for it. Depending on the version of events, she was either a lonely teenager searching for validation, or someone acting out in ways her parents feared. It was during this time, at just 16 years old, that she met Wyatt O'Brien, a man 7 years her senior. He was 23. The age gap alone should have been a red flag, but Sarah has said that at the time, his attention made her feel chosen. He called her mature for her age. He made her feel desired, something she had rarely experienced before. For days after her 18th birthday in 2011, Wyatt convinced her to elope. Looking back, she has described this decision as one rooted in extremely low self-worth. Marriage felt like stability. Like purpose. Like proof that someone wanted her. After the wedding, she followed him into a military-adjacent life, eventually enrolling at the University of Texas at El Paso, where she pursued a degree in history. During her college years, she underwent a dramatic physical transformation, losing roughly 50 to 60 pounds. The weight loss brought attention she had never experienced before, and with it came a new kind of validation, particularly from men. At first, she framed this transformation as healthy and empowering, crediting exercise and lifestyle changes. In later years, however, she would revise that narrative, describing unhealthy behaviors, starvation, and laxative abuse. Regardless of the method, the outcome was the same. For the first time in her life, people noticed her. Despite the attention, she remained deeply insecure about her body. After losing weight, she was unhappy with the changes to her breasts and the excess skin left behind. Eventually, she underwent plastic surgery, an experience she has described in vivid detail. The procedure, the recovery, and the final result marked a turning point. Almost overnight, she began receiving constant attention from strangers. Men stared. Cars slowed down. Eyes followed her wherever she went. And it was during this period, at just 21 years old, that a seemingly random encounter would open the door to a path that would change her life forever. By the time Sarah was in her early 20s, she was living in a strange emotional contradiction. On the surface, she appeared to be settling into adulthood, married, enrolled in college, and working toward a degree. Beneath that surface, however, she was still deeply insecure, searching for validation, and tethered to a relationship that would quietly shape many of her future decisions. Her marriage to Wyatt O'Brien was not what most people would consider stable or traditional. Because of his military obligations, the couple spent long stretches of time apart. When they were together, Sarah began to realize that something was deeply wrong. According to her own later accounts, her husband struggled with an intense pornography obsession. Their intimacy, she claimed, was dependent on explicit material, to the point where normal sexual interaction without it became nearly impossible. She has described the relationship as manipulative and emotionally damaging, saying that she felt less like a partner and more like an object, something to be displayed, shared, and controlled. Wyatt, for his part, has never publicly addressed these claims in interviews. But the absence of his voice did not mean the absence of evidence. As Sarah continued college life in El Paso, her online presence quietly expanded in ways that directly contradicted the image of an unsuspecting woman suddenly thrust into adult entertainment. Long before her professional career began, explicit photos and messages attributed to her began appearing on Reddit. These posts, now largely deleted, depicted a married woman engaging in sexual exhibitionism, often with her husband's encouragement. Accounts connected to usernames such as Dirty Chem described a couple involved in cuckolding and hot wife communities. The woman, widely believed to be Sarah, posted provocative messages, staged infidelity scenarios, and shared explicit images designed to arouse both strangers and her husband. In several instances, the husband appeared not only aware, but enthusiastic. Messages described scenarios where Sarah would intentionally tease other men, allowing them to believe she was cheating, only for her husband to later react with excitement rather than jealousy. In follow-up exchanges, explicit photos escalated into documented sexual encounters with third parties. Even more striking, the husband himself allegedly confirmed her identity in niche forums, casually identifying her as Lebanese and acknowledging her participation. These activities all predated her entry into professional adult film work. This is where the commonly accepted narrative begins to fracture. The popular story, that a bored college student was randomly approached at a fast food restaurant and impulsively entered porn, does not align with the evidence of a gradual progression into sexual exhibitionism. What appears instead is a slow normalization of increasingly explicit behavior, reinforced by attention, encouragement, and validation from both her husband and anonymous online audiences. During this same period, Sarah was working a series of mundane jobs while attending college. She often spoke about how restrictive her daily life felt, wearing uniforms, clocking in and out, and feeling invisible. As her husband was frequently away, the loneliness only deepened. The validation she received online may have filled a void left by isolation, insecurity, and an unbalanced marriage. In 2012, she took a job at an adult-themed party venue in El Paso, an erotic entertainment space that blurred the line between performance and intimacy. This environment placed her firmly within adult nightlife culture, further desensitizing her to sexual exposure. It was here, according to archived posts, that she allegedly began a long-term relationship with a man she met through the club, someone who later claimed he had no idea she was married. This individual, who posted under a now-deleted Reddit account, shared photos and details that have never surfaced anywhere else online. He alleged that Sarah misrepresented her relationship status, occasionally speaking briefly on the phone with her husband while claiming he was merely a gay best friend. He even accused her of secretly filming their sexual encounters without his consent. Whether every detail of this account is accurate is impossible to verify. But the consistency of the timeline, and the existence of unique photos, makes it difficult to dismiss entirely. What is clear is that her involvement in sexually explicit spaces did not begin suddenly or unwillingly. It evolved over time. By 2013, Sarah had fully left El Paso and moved to Miami. She claimed this move followed the completion of her college degree, though records confirming her graduation have never surfaced publicly. Regardless, Miami represented a clean break, a new city, a new body, and a new identity waiting to be formed. Her relocation was driven in large part by plastic surgery. After extensive research, she chose Miami for its renowned cosmetic surgeons, undergoing a breast lift and implants to address the physical insecurities left behind by her weight loss. The recovery was painful, but the psychological impact was immediate. Once healed, the attention she received multiplied. Men stared openly. Compliments came unprompted. For someone who had spent most of her life feeling invisible or undesirable, the effect was intoxicating. She changed how she dressed. She leaned into the attention. And for the first time, she began to see herself through the same lens others used to view her, as someone powerful, desirable, and worthy of notice. It was during this period in Miami that she was approached by a man connected to the adult entertainment industry. Contrary to later misremembered versions of the story, this encounter did not happen behind a fast food counter. Instead, it occurred in a public plaza, where a car reportedly screeched to a stop. The driver rolled down a tinted window, and openly assessed her body before offering a modeling card. When she researched the company, she realized it was for nude modeling and pornography. Shocked, but curious, she took the card home. According to her later testimony, she showed it to her husband, who reacted with excitement rather than concern. She waited roughly 2 weeks, wrestling with curiosity, fear, and temptation. She convinced herself it would be anonymous. That no one would ever see it. That it could remain a secret. That assumption would prove to be one of the most costly miscalculations of her life. Entering the adult industry and the hijab controversy. Once Sarah, now professionally known as Mia Khalifa, decided to step into adult entertainment, her journey accelerated rapidly. In Miami, she began working with a smaller production company, Scoreland, where she performed under the alias Mia Khalifa. At Scoreland, she filmed over 2 hours of content and hundreds of photos, focusing on her physical appeal, large breasts, slim figure, and a striking presence. It was here that she first experienced the intoxicating mix of attention, validation, and control that the industry offered. Unlike the chaotic environment of her earlier life, the sets at Scoreland gave her structure and the sense of being admired. She appeared to enjoy parts of the performance, though this enjoyment existed alongside complex feelings of uncertainty, fear, and curiosity. Her success at Scoreland quickly attracted the attention of the larger company, Bang Brothers, in 2014. They offered her a professional contract, at which point she adopted the stage name Mia Khalifa, Mia after her dog, and Khalifa after her favorite rapper. Soon after joining Bang Brothers, Mia would film the infamous hijab scene that made her one of the most notorious figures in adult entertainment. According to Mia's accounts in early interviews, she initially did not know the extent of the scene's controversial nature. Producers discovered she could speak Arabic and proposed an explicit scene wearing a hijab. Mia recalled warning them, "You guys are going to get me killed," expressing her fear of backlash from conservative Muslim communities. The producers reportedly laughed off her concerns. The scene was filmed, released, and immediately sparked international outrage. The hijab scene was not unique in adult film history, but Mia's prominence made it a lightning rod for controversy. Muslim communities were offended, particularly because pornography is considered haram, and her wearing of a hijab in this context was seen as deeply disrespectful. Even extremist groups like ISIS circulated images threatening her, to which Mia responded with dark humor, noting, "Just don't cut off my boobs. They were expensive." The fallout was immediate and severe. Lebanon banned her content, and her family publicly disowned her after learning about the scene from CNN. She became the most searched adult performer worldwide at age 22, despite having only been in the industry for a few months. Public and media scrutiny became relentless, affecting her mental health and social life. Despite her young age and the sudden notoriety, Mia's life did not slow. Bang Brothers, seeing her potential, offered her a long-term contract in 2015. She later claimed she signed under pressure, feeling intimidated by the executives and unsure of her rights. Bang Brothers disputes the claim, showing that she signed the contract voluntarily and had access to review it. Regardless of the specifics, Mia eventually renegotiated her contract to limit the types of content she produced, moving toward live webcam shows rather than filming additional explicit scenes. Her time as a professional adult actress officially lasted around 3 months with Bang Brothers, though her involvement in adult content, photos, scoreline videos, Reddit posts, and private performances, extended over a much longer period. During this period, Mia's personal life was turbulent. She began the process of divorcing Wyatt O'Brien, citing moral and ethical differences. This coincided with the development of another relationship, with a higher-up at Bang Brothers, which Mia later claimed was manipulative, keeping her tethered to the industry and emotionally dependent. She lived in modest, low-quality accommodations during this time, often describing her living situation as stressful and isolating. Her dogs became a source of emotional stability, the one consistent and non-judgmental presence in her life amid the chaos of fame, controversy, and personal upheaval. Mia's attempts to transition to a normal life were fraught. Ordinary jobs, paralegal work, bookkeeping, were difficult because of her public notoriety. Men often recognized her, made inappropriate advances, and commented on her past. This constant harassment reinforced the sense that escaping her identity as Mia Khalifa was impossible. Despite the negative attention, Mia began exploring content creation and social media as a new career path. Her knowledge of sports led to opportunities on platforms like Out of Bounds and Sportsball, but even there, sexualized messages and harassment followed her. She exposed some of these messages publicly to shame the senders, highlighting how pervasive objectification had been in her life. After leaving adult film production, Mia Khalifa's life remained far from ordinary. Attempting to live anonymously proved nearly impossible. Recognition on the streets, unwanted attention from men, and constant reminders of her past made traditional jobs untenable. Even positions in offices or retail exposed her to harassment, often sexual in nature, highlighting the long-lasting consequences of her earlier choices and public notoriety. Seeking a sense of autonomy and control, Mia turned to social media and content creation. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter became her new stage, allowing her to interact with audiences on her own terms. But even here, challenges persisted. Her past in adult entertainment shadowed every interaction, often being weaponized against her. One early viral incident occurred in 2018 when the TikTok song, Hit or Miss, went viral. Created by the musical duo I Love Friday, it referenced Mia in response to an alleged comment she had made about a female rapper smoking in a hijab. Mia later clarified that she had not made such a statement, and the viral attention came as an unwanted and confusing experience. While the diss track creators sought clout, the negative attention targeted her directly, exemplifying the ongoing theme of her being objectified and misunderstood online. During this time, Mia began forming more meaningful personal relationships. She found love with Robert Sandberg, a Swedish chef who had no prior knowledge of her adult film past. With Robert, she experienced a new form of validation, not sexualized, not performative, but grounded in personality and trust. The couple moved to Los Angeles, created a joint YouTube channel for travel and Q&A content, and later married privately during the early days of the pandemic. However, even her private life faced turmoil. By 2020, the couple was attending couples therapy, but the marriage ultimately ended in divorce. Both Mia and Robert have kept the exact reasons private, though industry disputes and the pressures of public attention may have contributed. Parallel to her personal life, Mia's interactions with Bang Brothers remained contentious. She publicly criticized the adult industry, claiming she had been coerced and underpaid, reporting she earned only $12,000 for her videos. This sparked widespread discussion, petitions, and support from fans advocating for her financial compensation and removal of her content. Bang Brothers responded with FactBeatFiction.com, disputing her claims, showing receipts of earnings, upwards of $178,000, and providing documentation of every video she had made. They also clarified she remained under contract far longer than Mia publicly acknowledged. Mia's response focused on the broader ethical concerns of the adult industry, especially the in perpetuity clauses in contracts, which allow companies to retain control over performers' content indefinitely. She emphasized that young women often sign such contracts without fully understanding the consequences, arguing for industry reform and protection for vulnerable performers. While navigating social media, Mia faced both support and backlash. She received sexualized comments, threats, and public mockery. Physical encounters with fans also escalated, most notably in 2017, when she physically defended herself against a man invading her personal space. Mia's actions highlighted a recurring theme in her life: constant objectification, lack of privacy, and the need to assert agency in spaces that often denied it. Despite ongoing public scrutiny, Mia began to reclaim her narrative. She utilized her platforms too. Her approach combined humor, candor, and directness, allowing her to remain relevant while navigating controversy. Mia also became vocal about her body autonomy, openly discussing plastic surgery, cosmetic choices, and the pressures of societal expectations regarding appearance. This period marks Mia's transformation from a figure defined by adult film notoriety to a social media influencer and public commentator, blending advocacy, personal storytelling, and entrepreneurial ventures. As Mia Khalifa continued her social media presence, controversy seemed never far behind. Even as a content creator and advocate, she became a lightning rod for criticism, often for statements taken out of context or misinterpreted by the public. In 2020, she gained attention for openly discussing her experiences selling adult content on subscription platforms. Mia compared the exploitation in adult entertainment to other forms of service, stating, "Selling your body, being in the military is worse than being on OnlyFans." Her point sparked debate, highlighting her ongoing candidness and willingness to challenge societal norms about body autonomy and labor. Mia's outspoken nature sometimes led to personal and professional repercussions. For instance, in 2023, she faced significant backlash after tweeting about the conflict in Israel and Palestine. Her phrasing, intended to comment on perspective and documentation of events, was widely condemned. She was dropped from partnerships, including Playboy and an Amsterdam-based company. Mia responded by clarifying that she was not promoting violence but rather observing the events, though the public reaction remained intense. Throughout these controversies, Mia maintained a consistent theme of candidness and self-assertion. She refused to silence herself despite the risk of losing partnerships or facing public ire. In doing so, she emphasized the importance of agency and speaking her truth, even when it came at a personal or financial cost. Alongside navigating controversy, Mia also pursued entrepreneurial ventures. She launched a body jewelry brand called Under the Arabic Word for Satan, leaning into edginess and personal branding. The collection reflects her persona, bold, unapologetic, and intentionally provocative. This endeavor demonstrated her ability to transform notoriety into tangible business ventures, leveraging her public persona in ways that extend beyond content creation. Her personal life also evolved. By 2024, Mia was in a relationship with Jacob, a Puerto Rican singer, songwriter, and record producer. Through her partnerships and entrepreneurial projects, she emphasized autonomy, choice, and rebuilding her identity on her own terms. Despite these achievements, Mia's story highlights the ongoing complexity of public perception. The narrative often presented in media, a naive girl forced into adult content for a brief period, is overly simplistic. The reality is layered, a young woman navigating the adult entertainment industry, complex personal relationships, social media scrutiny, and the pressures of public judgment, all while attempting to redefine herself and assert control over her own life. Her journey demonstrates a duality of victimhood and agency. She was pushed into vulnerable positions yet continually works to reclaim her narrative, challenge systemic inequities in her industry, and assert her identity beyond the labels imposed on her. Mia Khalifa's story is often misunderstood, oversimplified, or reduced to a few sensational headlines. To the public, she may appear as the adult film star for 3 months, but the truth is far more nuanced. Her journey spans early struggles with identity, coercive relationships, online notoriety, harassment, and ultimately, the reclamation of her own narrative. From her early life in Lebanon to her adolescence in the United States, Mia faced cultural displacement, bullying, and isolation. These formative experiences shaped her understanding of self-worth, relationships, and personal agency. Her early marriage at 18 to Wyatt O'Brien introduced a dynamic of control and manipulation, influencing subsequent decisions and vulnerabilities that would later intersect with the adult entertainment industry. Her tenure in adult content, whether framed as coerced, experimental, or rebellious, was just a portion of a much larger story. Behind the viral hijab scene, the Bang Brothers contract, and public controversies lies a pattern of exploitation, coercion, and public scrutiny. Mia has since used her platform to expose unethical practices in the adult industry, advocate for performers' rights, and warn others about the dangers of signing contracts without full understanding. Despite her controversial past, Mia's transformation into a social media influencer, content creator, and entrepreneur demonstrates resilience. She leveraged public attention to build a career on her terms, including sports commentary, YouTube content, and a bold jewelry brand. Her life exemplifies the ability to navigate adversity while reshaping one's public image. Yet, public perception remains a challenge. Mia continues to contend with objectification, online harassment, and misrepresentation, even years after leaving the adult industry. Viral moments, diss tracks, and controversial tweets have only added layers to a complex persona that the internet struggles to simplify. Her personal life reflects both caution and growth. After 2 marriages and a 3rd engagement, she continues to seek meaningful partnerships while asserting boundaries. She has openly discussed lessons learned from toxic relationships, the importance of self-worth, and the challenge of separating past mistakes from present identity. In conclusion, Mia Khalifa's story is not a tale of a naive girl thrust into adult content for a brief stint. It is a multi-layered narrative of a young woman navigating coercion, personal trauma, societal judgment, and the struggle for self-determination. It's a story that challenges simplistic narratives about morality, victimhood, and empowerment in the digital age. Through resilience, entrepreneurship, and advocacy, Mia Khalifa has crafted a life beyond the labels imposed on her, a life defined not by a 3-month career in adult entertainment, but by her ongoing fight for agency, dignity, and control over her own story.